Kasi pag tinignan nyo rin, ang pera kasi ang pera, I think familiar na kayo kasi marketing blah blah kayo, di ba? Ang pera kasi it's a gold certificate. It is known as a gold certificate. So kahit certificate lang ang pera, kung titignan niyo, nagagawa nitong ayusin yung society natin. Just imagine, gold certificate, kasi aabot mo sa isang tao kapalit ng kanyang service or kanyang good. Hindi to totoong gold. It's just a gold certificate. Pero inaalaw ka niya na ma-access yung service niya o yung product niya. Kasi yung money, nagbibuild siya ng social trust. Diba? May social trust. Papel lang yan eh. Parang promissory note lang yung pera natin eh. Pero nakakapag-exchange tayo ng goods, services, technologies gamit yung papel na yan. Because it is through money that we had able to establish yung concept of social trust. But of course, merong negative view about money, which I would not expound anymore. Bahala na kayo. And then Cephalus stated that the definition of justice is giving back what is owed to a person. This particular definition was opposed by Socrates. Socrates mentioned that you should not define justice as giving back what is owed to a person. What if your friend, for instance, asked you to keep his gun, diba? And that was 15 years ago. And then recently, you heard from a news that your friend had a mental illness, diba? Nagkaroon siya ng mental illness and he was suffering from it. And then he went to your place and he was asking you to give him his gun. Are you gonna give it or you will refuse to give it to him, knowing that hindi siya mentally stable? So para kay Socrates, hindi ganun yun. Dapat justice cannot be reduced as something, justice cannot be reduced in this particular definition. Nagets po ba? Kasi in that case, hindi mo pwedeng ibigay yung gun basta-basta kasi you don't know whether he will use it to inflict harm to others or he will use it against himself. Diba? He will use it to commit suicide or what. So basically you have to analyze the circumstance. So this particular definition was refined by Polymarchus. Sabi naman ni Polymarchus, justice means doing good to a friend and harming your enemies. And sabi naman ni Socrates, hindi rin yan pwedeng maging definition ng justice because you really don't know who's your friend. Or, diba? The people around you whom you call friend might not be your friend. They were just trying to deceive you because they wanted something from you. Diba? Maaaring yung friend mo ay hindi mo talaga friend, ahas yan friend, diba? Or maaaring yung enemies sa tinatawag mo ay hindi mo talaga enemies. Sometimes we have this tendency that because we don't like the appearance of someone, we say, ayaw ko sa kanya, it's part of my enemy, hindi ko siya circle. Or because of a particular incident, you made a bad impression to that particular individual, and that particular bad impression really influenced your view about the particular individual, and you classified him or her as an enemy. When in fact, those people potentially they want the best for you. Di ba meron kayo na-encounter na akala ko masama ka pero hindi pala. Mga ganong kadamahan. Kasi the truth is, hindi natin talaga alam kung sino yung fully nag-care sa atin at hindi. And there are people na kahit sobrang stranger nila, kahit hindi natin sila masyadong pinapansin, sila yung silent supporter natin. Sila yung mga tao na kapag nakaka-achieve tayo ng kahit maliliit na bagay, lagi silang nagiging proud. Yung parang kaklase mo lang siya, tapos hindi mo pa siya friend. Pero pag kinausap, tapos may na-achieve ka, tapos sobrang proud siya sa ibang tao, sabihin, uy, kaklase ko to. Di ba parang may mga ganong Pilipino na kahit hindi ka friend, sobrang proud siya sa nagiging achievement mo. Samantalang yung friend mo kapag naka-achieve ka, ay, okay, friend. As long as they get something from you, they will classify you as a friend. So, mahirap i-determine kung sino yung friend and enemy mo, sabi ni Socrates. But aside from that particular cases, for Socrates kasi, a virtuous man or a just man would not inflict harm to anybody. Hindi siya gagawa ng masama sa kahit sino. Yung reasonable person at saka yung just person. Kahit Thrasymachus naman, yung binanggit natin kanina, justice is the interest of the stronger party. Sabi ni Plato, hindi ganyan yung definition ng justice. Kahit sabihin mo ang stronger party yung nagka-craft ng law, there are also a tendency that they craft the law that would be unfavorable to them in the future. So hindi yan yung dapat na maging definition ng justice. And sabi niya dito, it is more profitable to be unjust rather than to be just. So many people uphold this particular view that it is more profitable to be unjust rather than to be just. In the Philippines, we are witnessing that many government officials, they tend to do unjust things because it is more economical. For instance, yung sa PhilHealth case, 15 billion ba yun? Yung 15 billion? For those people who were involved in corrupting the 15 billion. Pero of course, hindi 15 billion yung kinurap nila. Mahirap i-liquidate yan. For those people who were involved in corrupting that 15 billion, in micro level, meron silang beneficial. Malaking benefits nila. Diba? Mas nagiging wealthier sila because of the corrupted money. Pero, in macro level, makikita natin that their actions create social rupture. That their action had damaged the fabric of our society. Meaning to say, it is not profitable for the community at large to do unjust actions. Kasi mas nagiging chaotic, mas nagkakaroon ng violence. Okay? So, I want you to answer that question kahit tapos na yung klase natin para sa mga nakakarinig. Kasi kung i-embrace itong particular viewpoint na to, maintindihan mo na yung society. Kapag sinabi mo na, yes, it is more profitable to be unjust, and you accepted that as true, as an indubitable truth. Possibly maging ganyan ka eh. And possibly, wala talagang future yung society natin. So you have to pay serious attention dito sa simpleng statement lang to. Then kanina, sabi natin, kay Protagoras, man is the measure of all things. Merong dalawang variant, yung cultural relativism and individual relativism. Tapos ito, yung kanina, kay Antipon, nakafocus lang yan sa might makes right. O yung tinatawag nating, ang might makes right ay tinatawag nating moral realism. Okay? Moral realism. So dito na tayo kay Socrates. Socrates was known as the father of Western philosophy. At ang method na gamit niya ay tinatawag nating Socratic method or Socratic elenchus. It's a series of questioning and answering. It involves series of questioning and answering. Tries to examine or to test the veracity of the claim of a particular individual, and it also tries to test yung kanyang cognitive understanding on that particular subject matter, which is subject of the discourse. Okay, Socrates was busying himself with ethical matters and neglecting the world of nature as a whole, but seeking the universal in these ethical matters. So, ibig sabihin, just like the Sophies, Socrates abandoned the metaphysical discourse. He distanced himself from the cosmological discourses, and he focused on the ethics. So the basic question in ethics is, what is good life? Yan yung pinaka-basic na question sa ethics. What is good life? And this is the teaching of Socrates. Kindly read it, and please share your opinion about this particular passage. Sino pwedeng magbasa?
Ma'am, ako po.
Okay.
Ma'am, saan po simula?
Dun sa Men of Athens.
Men of Athens, I honor and love you, but I shall obey God rather than you. And while I have strength, I shall never cease from the practice and teaching of philosophy, exhorting anyone whom I meet and saying to him after my manner, you are my friend, a citizen of the great and mighty and wise city of Athens. Are you not ashamed of heaping up the greatest amount of money and honor and reputation, and caring so little about wisdom and truth and the greatest improvement of the soul, we should never regard or heed at all? And if the person with whom I am arguing says, yes, but I do care, then do not leave him or let him go at once. But I proceed to interrogate and examine and cross-examine him, and I think that he has no virtue in him, but only says that he has. I reproach him with undervaluing the greater and overvaluing the less. And I shall repeat the same words to everyone I meet, young and old, citizen and alien, but especially to the citizens. For know that this is the command of the God, and I believe no greater good has happened to this state than my service to the gods. For I do nothing but go about persuading you all, old and young, alike, not to take thought for your persons or your properties, but first and chiefly to care about the greatest improvement of your soul. I tell you that virtue is not given by money, but that from virtue comes from money and every other good of man, public as well as private. This is my teaching.
So, kindly provide us your insight about this particular passages from Apology of Plato.
Yung pong yung pong teachings po ni Socrates, sinasabi niya po dito yung about po dun sa nirerespeto, ino-honor po, pero mas i-obey niya po si God kesa dun sa mga inuutos sa kanya, siguro po ng mga tao or ng mga nakakataas. Tapos yon, tapos po dito, hindi po mahihigitan ng pera yung kanyang prinsipyo po, ganun.
Okay, thank you. Other insights from your classmates? Meron ba kayong gustong share? Okay. Okay, I think kapag nag-analyze po tayo, hindi natin pwedeng i-abandon yung yung entire passages mula doon sa text. Pag sinabi kasi nating analysis, breaking down, di ba? Ni-break down mo yung statement bago ka magka-come up doon sa holistic interpretation doon sa particular passage. So, kung titignan natin dito, sabi niya, I reproach him with undervaluing the greater and overvaluing the less. So, undervaluing the greater, ano yung sinasabi niya dito? And overvaluing the less. So, titignan natin yung pinag-uusapan nila is, ito, you are not ashamed of heaping up greatest amount of money, honor, and reputation. So, masyado nating binavalue yung pera, yung false honor natin, at saka yung false reputation. So, you are overvaluing the less. Yan yun. And sabi niya, undervaluing the greater. Ano yung undervaluing the greater? Yung wisdom, yung truth, at saka yung greatest improvement of the soul. So, most of the time, sa panahon natin, makikita natin na napakadaming tao na ipagpapalit nila yung pera, ay pagpapalit nila yung wisdom nila, yung truth, at saka yung soul nila para sa pera, false honor, and reputation. I think familiar na kayo. Siguro, as an example na lang, favorite ko kasi si Harry Roque. Si Harry Roque na lang. Si Harry Roque kasi as a lawyer and as a spokesperson, I really admire him. Ma'am! Pero hindi, magaling kasi talaga siya. At kung makikita ninyo yung pinaggagawa ni President Duterte, yung mga self-refuting ni Duterte, makikita mo na napakataas ng pasensya ni Harry Roque. Pero, kung titignan mo, Harry Roque, credential-wise talaga siya. Pero, kung smart kasi, and alam natin na he was a lawyer. He must be a reasonable man. But unfortunately, nakikita natin ngayon na okay lang na magmukha siyang tanga. Okay lang kahit na i-self-refute niya yung sarili niya. For what? Hindi ba naiisip? Bakit ginagawa ni Harry Roque yung mga ginagawa niya ngayon? Credible siyang tao eh. Nakita niyo ba yung credentials ni Harry Roque? Search ninyo. Isa siyang mahusay na lawyer. Pero bakit niya ginagawa yung ginagawa niya ngayon? Bakit nahayaan niya na mag-appear siyang joker sa harap ng maraming individual? It was because of the money? Or it was because of the false honor and false reputation na i-offer sa kanya ng Malacanang? Baka tumakbo siyang senador or sa kongreso or maging national representatives natin siya. Yung false reputation and false honor na ino-offer ng politics. Hindi ko alam. This is just a personal insight. But take note, he must be a reasonable man. He was supposed to be. Okay? The same with many other government officials and other individuals outside government. So, ayun. Yun lang yung point. As an example lang naman yan. Ito naman, sabi dito, I tell you that virtue is not given by money, but that from virtue comes money and every other good of man, public as well as private. So, kung makikita natin, it was similar to the dictum or short aphorism that were uttered by many Filipinos, di ba? Meron tayong parang mga saying na hindi na bibili ng pera ang ugali. Yung character. Hindi na bibili ng pera yung character. Na kahit marami kang pera kung sorry for the term, kung tanga ka talaga. Hindi na bibili ng pera yung character. But take note, but that from virtue. comes money and every other good of man, public as well as private. Kasi ang virtue for Socrates is knowledge. So if you are knowledgeable, if you are a wise person, money will come to you. A virtuous person is a wise man. And therefore, because he is wise and courageous and he is capable of moderating himself, the virtuous man will surely live a good life. I think he will not suffer from any. He will not. He will not suffer. He will not. He won't experience. Sorry, won't experience financial crisis as much as possible. Kasi meron siyang right disposition. He knows how to handle his life very well. So yun, even in public and private affair, magpa-flourish ka. Kasi meron kang virtue, meron kang wisdom, meron kang courage, and you have this ability to moderate yourself. And then this was the Self-Realization of Socrates. Kindly read this. Para matapos na tayo, guys. 2 slides lang yan. RJ.
Pinagtiyan ka man lang sana. Ba't kung pinagtiyan si Mrs. nung binenta mo yung motor?
Sige, RJ. Iba na lang. Sino pwede pong magbasa para matapos na tayo?
Ako na lang.
Sige. Thank you, Miss.
Yes po. Socrates' realization. I said to myself, what can the God mean? And what is the interpretation of his riddle? For I know that I have no wisdom, small or great. What then can be mean when he says that I am the wisest of men? And yet he is God and cannot lie. That would be against his nature. After long consideration, I thought of a method of trying the question. I reflected that if I could only find a man wiser than myself, then I might go to the God with a refutation in my hand. I should say to him, Here is a man wiser than I am, but you said that I am the wisest. Accordingly, I went to the one who had a reputation of wisdom and observed him. His name I need not mention. He was a politician whom I selected for examination, and the result was as follows. When I began to talk with him, I could not help thinking that he was not really wise, although he was thought wise by many and still wiser by himself. And thereupon I tried to explain to him that he thought himself wise but was not really wise. And the consequence was that he hated me, and his enmity was shared by several who were present and heard me. So I left him, saying to myself, as I went away, well, although I do not suppose that either of us knows anything really beautiful and good, I am better off that he is. For he knows nothing and thinks that he knows. I neither know nor think that I know in this. Then I seem to have slightly the advantage of him. Then I went to another one who still higher pretensions to wisdom, and my conclusion was exactly the same. Whereupon I made another enemy of him, and of many others besides him.
So, what was the point of this particular selection, particular passage derived from Apology as well?
Ayan po. So, sabi po, he was finding someone who is wiser than him. And parang nagkaroon po siya ng realization na hindi naman po talaga siya wise at hindi siya aware na hindi siya wise. Pero alam na maraming wise siya. And parang nagkaroon po siya na parang he tries to explain po na hindi po talaga siya wise. Pero maybe yun po yung advantage niya ni Socrates po na alam niyang hindi yung taong yun ay wise. Kaya po siya ay wise. Parang ganun po yun na explain.
Okay. Sa English yung basa nila dyan, Socrates. But most of the philosophy majors, we were used to call him Socrates. So basically, siguro ang isa lang na kailangan yung ma-develop dito is yung intellectual humility. I mentioned it before to you na may knowledge ka makukuha mula dun sa mga taong hindi nakapag-aral. Sabi nga ng isang manunulat, may mga sabi niya, may mga nakapag-aral na hindi. Wait lang. What was the exact wordings? I forgot the exact passage from the text. Pero yung main thought lang ng isang author, Filipino author, sabi niya lang sa atin na may mga nakapag-aral na hindi nag-aral. Kumbaga, may mga learnings tayo na hindi natin makukuha sa loob ng university, sa loob ng schooling. Pero may mga hindi nakapag-aral na maraming natutunan mula doon sa kanilang live experience. So basically, my point is that hindi tayo dapat masyadong obsessed dun sa knowledge na meron tayo. At wag natin masyadong i-overvalue yung intelligence natin. Kasi there are instances na kung saan makikita natin na hindi natin alam yung maraming bagay. At nakakatuwang isipin na yung bagay na hindi natin alam, yun yung mga bagay na alam ng mga taong minamaliit natin kasi hindi sila nag-undergo ng schooling katulad natin. So, the point is, you have to develop yung intellectual humility ninyo. At you have to admit na may mga bagay kayo or tayo na hindi pa fully nagagrasp. We have to admit the limitations of our own mind. Okay? So that's the point. Dito kasi dahil hindi matanggap ng tao na si Socrates, hindi nila matanggap, the poet, the politicians, hindi nila matanggap na hindi sila wise. Nag-file sila ng kaso kay Socrates, and Socrates was sentenced to death for not worshipping the God of the state and for corrupting the mind of the youth. Pero hindi naman talaga kinukurap yung mind ng youth eh. He was discoursing with the youths. And every time na nagkakaroon ng diskurso, ang ginagawa lang ni Socrates ay hinahayaan lang yung youth na state yung kanyang understanding on a particular topic, and then he will continuously question that individual, and that later on that particular individual will realize that there is something that he missed before, that there are aspects that he had overlooked. So may mga ganun aspeto lang, but he was not really he did not intend to corrupt the mind of the youth. It just happened na masyadong parang sa panahon lang natin, parang bad yung intellectual shaming. Yung intellectual shaming, I think it's a sign of insecurity. Kaya mo binabash yung matatalino kasi insecure ka sa sarili mo, hindi mo ma-achieve yung na-achieve nila. So, ang tendency mo is ipahiya sila by articulating the words, edi wow, edi ikaw na yung magaling, etc. Parang it's a sort of projection ng insecurity ng isang individual because they don't want to be corrected. Okay? Wait. Ano nangyari? Okay? Same pa rin naman to. So, ito na yung last slide. So, sino si Socrates? Wala naman tayong alam masyado sa kanya. Some books says fictional character lang si Socrates, but there were historians who tried to show evidences that would warrant the existence of Socrates during the classical era. Pero si Socrates kasi, he wrote no philosophy and he was one of the principal characters in Plato's work. And he influenced a lot of thinkers during the classical era and even up to the present. Hindi ko na sasabihin siguro yung influence niya. Pero ayun, he influenced the hedonists, the Stoics, and the Cynicism. Matatakal naman natin itong mga to, pero bahagya lang kasi nakafocus tayo doon sa ilang figures lamang in philosophy. So, ano yung virtue for Socrates? So, virtue is the quality of the soul. Ma'am, di ko maintindihan yung soul. Sa ancient Greek po, ang soul ay also translated as mind. So, para mas maintindihan ninyo, virtue is the quality of the mind. The soul or the mind. And kaya yung preceding statement, which was derived from the Meno, one of the work of Plato then, sabi niya, virtue must be a sort of wisdom or prudence. Okay? Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, virtue is knowledge. And then for Socrates, no one does even evil willingly. So, evil was committed by people who were ignorant about good. What is good. And then Socrates also exhorts us to know ourselves. And he informed us that one of the important tasks is to take care of ourselves. And sabi niya nga sa The Republic, the difficulty is not to avoid death, but to avoid unrighteousness. So you have to constantly develop your soul to avoid unrighteous actions. And he also classified himself described himself as a physician of the soul. And by that, he was inviting us to examine ourselves. Sabi niya, the famous and the most quoted, I think, words of Socrates is, the unexamined life is not worth living. Have you ever examined your life? Have you ever raised questions about your own identities, your own subjectivities? Did you ever construct your own interpretations about yourself, about the others, or about the world, or you just let others to influence your view about these particular entities? So basically, he was inviting us to examine ourselves. And yung kanina, sinabi niya sa atin, ang task niya lang naman is to persuade all, old and young alike, not to take thought of your persons or properties. So, ibig sabihin, hindi tayo mag-focus sa material things. But first and chiefly, to care about the greatest improvement of your soul. I will tell you that virtue is not given by money, but that from virtue comes money and every good of man, public as well as private. So, I think that concludes my my presentation today. So, do you have questions? Wala.
By group, saan po ipapasa?
Yeah. Pagawa na lang po ako ng isang group. Isang group.
GC po?
Hindi, wait lang, sorry. Wait lang, pagod na kasi ako. Siya. Gawa na lang po ng isang folder doon sa MS Teams kung saan doon niyo na lang po i-input lahat ng group activity na ginawa ninyo last week. Hindi ko po kasi magawa kasi may klase po ako ng 7:30 hanggang 7:30. 7:30 AM hanggang 7:30 ngayong araw. Tapos after po nun, may work pa po ako.
Okay po.
So, yun.
Ma'am,
Okay na tayo? Sige.
po. Pwede pong, PDF po yung ipasa. May design po kasi yung file po namin.
Okay lang po. Mas okay po yan.
Okay po.
Thank you po. So, ulitin ko po kung kaya nyo nang magpasa by next meeting ng proposal, kung ano yung mapipiling topic para sa mga readers. Mas okay na po para makahanap na po kayo ng gagamitin para magawa nyo na po. And then, dire-diretso po yung klase natin para first week ng June, tapos na po yung klase natin. I'll just wait for the submission of your final and midterm. Tapos siguro, for individual activity, maggagawa na lang ako ng quiz siguro. Siguro pagkatapos ng klase, tsaka ko lang pag-iisipan. Pero siguro may isa ako, okay? Para may reference tayo ng grading ninyo. So, kung wala na po kayong question, okay na tayo. Thank you so much.